Okay, what we're going to do in this session is we're going to have a look at adding lights to a scene. Now, when we've been doing stuff so far, we've just been using sort of a generic work light in 3D Studio Max, which lights a scene, lets us see what we're doing, but it's not fantastic. And what we actually need to do is actually start adding lights and lighting it as if it was an actual scene that we're perhaps lighting for a film or something like that. So, at the end of this session, you'll be able to insert an area light, insert a spotlight, and turn off the global work light. Okay, so again, a little bit trickier than stuff we might have done earlier on, but you should get the hang of it fairly easily. So let's have a go. So once again, let's just chuck an object in so we can light it. Let's chuck a teapot in for something that's a bit more creative. So I'll come up to my top view and I'll just click and drag, drawing a teapot. Okay, then if I want to move it, remember if I can't see the tools I want, I can scroll this bar back and forth until I do. There's my move tool now, so I can move my teapot into the middle of the scene, and then when I come down here, you see I've got this nice sort of bright pink teapot. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some lights onto it. So you might say, hang on, this is lit already. And it's true, if I come back up to the top here, and again, scroll along this bar, you might need to do it if you've got working on a higher resolution screen than me. Click on teapot, wrong view. Make sure you click on the right view to render it. So in this case I want the perspective view, so make sure the yellow line's around perspective. Done that to quick render, and that's what I get. I get a teapot, I can see it, and if you think about it, it must be lit because I can actually physically see it. Yeah, but it's pretty bland the way it's lit. It's just a general light which 3D Studio Max puts on just so we can see what we're doing. Okay, now what we can do is apply our own lights, which suddenly become a lot more realistic. Okay, so let me just close that down. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is, so far we've played here with these primitives and the shape tools here, and we said there was a lot more other options here. And if you look across, the third one looks like a spotlight, and if you click on it, suddenly you see everything changes. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is put in an omni light, which is basically a big area light, which is really useful for giving a nice soft light to a room. Okay, so if you think about most rooms, apart from in sort of Hollywood movies and everything like that, if you walk into most rooms, there's a general light in the room so you can see what you're doing. Okay, and this is the kind of thing that an omni light puts on. So I'm going to click on omni, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to chuck it in my scene, perhaps just above the teapot. Okay, and you'll instantly see down here that this has had an effect. Okay, because we're now no longer using the bog standard light that comes with Studio Max, we're making our own light. Okay, so let's move it about. So I need the move tool, so I can't see it, so click on my bar somewhere on the grey area, scroll along until I can see it. There we go. Move tool. Come back down to one of my windows where I can see the light, and perhaps move it just slightly forward of the teapot so we get a bit of a glow around it. There, okay. So you might be thinking this doesn't make a lot of difference, but let's go back up and do a quick render of this now. So come back here, grey area, scroll along till we can see the teapot. Oops, wrong view. Make sure you're in the perspective view if you want that. That's the view you want to render. Okay. Okay. You can suddenly see it looks a lot more like it's actually in a scene. You can see there's actual shadows falling off parts of it. Yeah, one part of it goes into total darkness. It makes it look a lot more realistic. We've actually put a general light into the scene. So that's all well and good. And generally speaking, Omni lights will light most scenes for you. But you may want to do something a bit spectacular at some point. So let's close that down. Okay. And let's put in a spotlight. In this case, we're going to put in a target spot. So I'm coming down here. So I'm going to go target spot. And I'm going to come over here and click and drag. Where I first click it is where it puts the light. Okay. And where I drag it is where the light points to. Okay. So let me point it at the teapot. And again, it's in the wrong place. I can't really see it there. So back up to my move tool. Let me just grab a bit of grey so I can pull it. Move. like I say, you shouldn't have this sort of problem with your yeah. And you can see, if I come down here now, you can see this is the spotlight. You can see as I move it around, see how it looks like a little torch shining on my teapot. So let me render that one out. Teapot. Okay, and see how now it's rendered it, but it's got the highlight and the spotlight on it as well. Okay, so that's adding an area light, which will generally light a room, and also adding a spotlight, which you can use for more sort of dramatic effects and lifting stuff out of a scene. Okay, and really that's the basics of lighting. So you should always really use your own lights. Don't rely on Studio Max lights. Having done that, hopefully you can see that you can now just start creating scenes using these specialist lights rather than just chucking objects into a scene using the bog standard light that comes with Studio Max. And you can see stuff like spotlights, you can get some very dramatic effects very easily. Okay, so if you feel like doing the quiz, go off and do the quiz, and when you're happy with this, have a good play with putting lights into a scene, and once you're done with that, come back and we'll do session 9.